Release the Kraken.
Good morning, Hockey Nation Live, and good morning, RJ. Thank you for joining. Happy Halloweens, everybody. It's October 31st, and it was a spooky week last week, but it ended on a good note if you're a Detroit Red Wings fan after two kind of brutal losses, 6-2 to the Devils on Tuesday, 5-1 to the Bruins on Thursday. The Red Wings faced off against maybe a team that hasn't really hit their stride, which is Minnesota Wild. It didn't look good early as Krill Kaprizov scored early, but they managed to hang on. I think the best news out of this is that Lucas Raymond breaks out. So we know he only had 2 assists on the season, so that was not a great start for Lucas Raymond. He responded, getting 2 goals on the night. First, it was 1-0 early on, and he got everybody back into it with his first goal, tying it up at 1-1 after Kaprizov scored. And I mean, it did not look good there. That first goal was really early. Yeah. I think the good news, too, is that Dylan Larkin, I did not expect Dylan Larkin to play after the previous game, although we know Michael Rasmussen was out adding to the pile of bodies not in the game. So that was a little crazy. And it looked like Larkin might be out with an injury, but he ended up playing and getting 2 assists. I watched the game after kind of watching the score, but Detroit looked a little sloppy. Husso played decent, but Raymond was really the story here, and that's good news for the Red Wings. So first period, 1-0 Kaprizov. Again, it was really early, minute 28 in. It was kind of not looking up for Detroit there, but then Lucas Raymond responds near the end of the period, making it 1-1. And then the second, what would prove to be the game-winning goal on the power play from Kubalik, who gets his 7th assist. He has 11 points on the season, 8 in his last 5. And then Larkin gets his 2nd assist of the game, so all good. Adam Ernie was pretty noticeable in this game, playing real physical. I thought that was really positive. A little quiet from Soderblom. Sider's really solid. Everyone was really solid this night. Compared to 11 goals in the previous 2 games, this is a big improvement for the team. So this was all good news. And, the Red Wings are able to leave the weekend 4-2-2 on the season. If you had told me at this point that the Red Wings would be 4-2-2, I would have been somewhat surprised. And we know even after a rough week, they got out to a pretty good start with 2-0, and then they had 2 overtime losses, make it 2-0-2, and suddenly they're in pretty good shape, but they're still middle of the pack. That Atlantic is kind of crazy. And now we come up to Monday night, and they're facing a division rival in Buffalo, who is 5-3-0. So would you have thought that Buffalo would be 5-3-0, particularly if you look at their goaltending? Would you think, hey, with the goaltending in Buffalo, they're going to be A, ahead of the Red Wings, and B, like in the top half of the division? I certainly wouldn't have picked that. So it's been a pretty exciting start to the season overall. Regardless of whether you're a Red Wing fan or a Sabre fan, this is all good news because it's nice to see teams improve, especially after all the drama that was in Buffalo for the last number of years. So you have 2 teams that are on the upswing here. If you look at the standings right now, Boston firmly in first in the Atlantic, followed by Florida in 9 games are 5-3-1. Florida has 29 goals for and 28 goals against. I just don't like the way they're playing. And I know Coach Frenchie says it's not the same team as before, but really they have a lot of the same pieces. I'm not a big fan of the coaching situation. It does hurt. Their defense is a mess in Florida, so I guess it is pretty good with Aaron Ekblad out, and it's definitely Swiss cheese. But then right behind Buffalo, or right behind Florida, is Buffalo in the standings. If you take a look, let's take a quick look at this. You can see firmly in third. There we go in the standings. So Boston, 16 points in 9 games, 8-1-0, 39 goals for, 21 against. They're just cranking it. Florida, not too far behind, but this is, kind of concerning, this goal differential. So they're squeaking by. Maybe that's considered positive just because of the situation with their defense being a bit of a mess at the moment. But Buffalo, 8 games, 5 wins, 3 losses, 29 goals for, only 22 goals against in 8 games. I mean, that's kind of incredible. So you got a lot of credit to the defense of, they got led by a great start by Rasmus Dahlin. So, and Owen Power is a big factor, and that's just made everyone else, I think, better in Buffalo. So those are 2 great pieces. Detroit, 4-2-2, nothing to sneeze at. But look here who's starting to climb up slowly. But again, the goal differential, 28 goals for, 28 goals against for Tampa Bay, 5-4-0. You got to think at some point they're just going to leapfrog most of these teams, if not all of them. Montreal playing surprisingly well. I think Montreal with Cole Caulfield and Suzuki looking pretty good. Toronto last night in the Atlantic did not help their cause. Toronto losing in overtime. They were up 2-1 at one point. It was the last time I checked in on that game, and they lost to the struggling Anaheim Ducks. And I asked Coach Frenchie on this weekend, who will be fired first, Dallas Eakins or Sheldon Keefe? Now, the Matt Murray experiment definitely not worked out. You see the issue with Ilya Samsonov. He's just inconsistent. He looked great at 1 minute, and the next minute just not working out for them. So Toronto, man, holy smokes. This was kind of crazy. Big win for what's going on in Columbus. I thought they'd be a lot better. I think Liney's still out, so that doesn't really help them. But New Jersey cranking on all cylinders here. Hishar on the board. Chinikov has been doing decent, gets his second goal there. Kent Johnson's looking real good, but other than that, there's not much going on in Columbus at the moment. But who is going on is Jesper Bratt. Is he on a 9-game point streak? Jesper Bratt with 15 points in 9 games from New Jersey, leading the way. This was a great signing. He's making them look like geniuses here. So this is all crazy. Anyways, not to get distracted, but tonight we have Buffalo versus Detroit. Buffalo coming off a 4-3 win over Chicago. They lost again last night, Chicago 4-3 to Minnesota. But this is the crazy part. Toronto just struggling here. This is like a battle of the struggle teams. They played Calgary last night, 897 save percentage. Ain't going to get it done. It didn't. So that's interesting. That didn't help. But overall, they really need Samsonov to be the guy, and that's just not working. 917 for Gibson. He gets the win, but he needs to be better overall. So I don't know. This is rough. One of these 2 guys is probably going to go. I can't imagine that not happening. All right. So tonight we've got our matchup, Buffalo and Detroit. Hey, Jose, thank you for joining. Good morning. I'm not sure if it's morning where you are. Looking ahead, Kubalik remains the top scorer in Detroit. He's got 11 points in the season, 8 in his last 5 games. Rasmus Dahlin, as I mentioned, having a great start to the season, and that's really helped. 4 goals by Alex Tuch, ain't nothing to sneeze at. But Buffalo's getting good production across the board from a number of sources. I really like the way this team plays. Like they're on top of the puck. They're pressuring the puck. They're creating offense, and just Don Granato's just really, really worked out as the coach here. So this is all good news if you're a Buffalo fan. Detroit coming in, I think that this will be a great matchup and a great test for Detroit. They're still a little shorthanded, so reality is this is not be an easy game. But 10 points in 8 games for Buffalo's Rasmus Dahlin. This is great news if he continues at this pace. I mean, this is a guy that was drafted first overall. He stepped in immediately at 44 points. And I think, again, this is one of those situations we're going to look back and go, oh, yeah, he's great. He's always been great. Yes, we had all these crazy minus seasons, but you see now he's got supporting cast, and he's a +7. So, I mean, there's lots going on. Yep, in Buffalo. Rick Travis, thank you. Larkin will smack a goal tonight. Well, that would be nice to see. And I'd like to see, Lucas Raymond continuing to get offensive production is really important. Roenick or Sherratt for the week in the fantasy? That's a really good question. To me, Roenick is going to give you a little bit more offense than Sherratt. Love the over here too. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe I'm missing understanding this. But thanks, Rick, for joining. I'm really happy to see you in Morningwood. I don't know about your username, Morningwood, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that. So just, on Buffalo, if you take a look at what we're faced up against, the leading scorer being Rasmus Dahlin, the former first overall pick. He's 22 now, 23. Alex Tuck right in there. 6 goals in 8 games. This is great. Now, Jack Eichel is working out in Vegas. I'm not a huge Jack Eichel fan. Victor Olofsson, 6 goals in 8 games. I mean, he had a really good finish to his season last year, so this is a really good offensive weapon. I really like Victor Olofsson. And Tage Thompson had a breakout year, is not really missing much of a beat here. 3 goals, 3 assists in 8 games. That's on pace for 30. And really, Casey Middlestad missed a bunch last year. He's a super slick, talented player, and he's getting offensive production. If this is your second-line center, you're in really good shape. So overall, they're getting offense from a number of sources. Apparently, this is the Jeff Skinner off year, because Jeff Skinner kind of goes on, off. And JJ Peterka not doing bad. I mean, if he ends up getting this pace and gets 20 goals on the year, that'll be great news, and I think he will. He's a really, really versatile player. He never takes a shift off, and he's got really good offensive instincts. But if you told me at the beginning of the year, this is kind of the tale of two goalies, though, still. Like Eric Comrie, a career backup, when he's in, 2 and 3, this is probably indicative of what you're going to get. 3.4 goals against, probably not going to work out for Buffalo long term. They need Craig Anderson in there. The guy that's kind of surprising, though, is Jack Quinn. I thought he would have a little bit more offense, and Owen Power playing well, but not really getting the offensive production you would have guessed. And Kyle Okposo might have fallen back into his, off. He had a great year last year, but he's got 4 assists, but no goals. That's not good news for Buffalo, but they're getting it from lots of other places. Hey, Greg and John, thank you for joining. I appreciate you jumping on. Let's see, the Wicked 50 Cal. I don't know what that is. That's amazing. Somebody's got to explain to me your username, but I really appreciate you joining. Good morning, Kelly. Thank you. Happy Halloween. I'm sorry about your Toronto Maple Leafs. They are not looking amazing. Rough game against Anaheim last night. Oh, got it. There we go. So we were talking about Toronto and that Atlantic. If you look at the Atlantic, it's a tough division. Who would have guessed that Toronto would have been at the bottom? And they're really struggling. It'll be interesting to see what breaks here. 4-4-2. They've played a couple more games than the Red Wings, and they have the same number of points. But this 30 goals against, this is just an indictment against the goaltending situation. I don't know if they have much choice, but Matt Murray can't even make it through one game without getting injured. Samsonov's a little inconsistent, but he's been decent overall. But they need someone else, and Calgary didn't exactly hold them in last night against an Anaheim team that's really, really not great. Yeah, exactly. This could have been worse, right? Could have been 4-3 before, but I don't know what's going on in Toronto. Good morning, Hockey Nation Run with Kings. Thank you for joining us. We saw the Kings beat up on the Leafs as well. The Kings are looking good. So I think if you're a Kings fan, it's pretty good. And there's still more in the kitty for the Kings. Like, I think that they're just going to get better and better. You look in the West, the Kings are middle of the pack at 5-5-0, but overall, the goaltending is probably the problem there. But Velarde is great news for them. 7 goals on the year. They just recalled Rasmus Kupari, so they have lots of options down in the minors. I'm actually surprised they're 5-5-0, but you're not going to win a lot of games with that goals against. Yikes, that's rough. Vancouver 2-5-0, but they've won 2 in a row, so maybe they're getting their act together. Seattle's look decent. Not too bad. This is still the tale of Shane, right? Jeez. And suddenly, 4 wins in a row for the Oilers, who looked a little bit off their game while they're on. Connor McDavid's woken up. And I don't know, I haven't looked at the leading scores in the NHL, but how much you want to bet Connor McDavid's right up there? Oh, Jesus. 18 points for Connor McDavid. Also leading the NHL with 9 goals. So this is Connor McDavid pulling his team up by, putting them on his back. Yeah. Coach fired or big trade coming for the Leafs. I mean, listen, they need a goalie. Like, the goalie that you would have wanted would have been the guy they played, which is John Gibson. Like, they should have tried to figure that out, but he might not want to go to Toronto. Toronto's a little bit of a weird situation. Coach and I were talking about this the other night. There's a weird psychosis in Toronto around, choking. And they haven't matured their game still, in my opinion. I just don't get it. They lost all 3 games in the West. Yeah, it's not good. I mean, they just don't have the goaltending, and they don't have a team that defensively supports them. I'm happy the Kings scoring. They can find their defense again. Exactly. Like, this is a bit of a problem. Gabe Velarde's a great story for the team. Fiala looks great. Kings overall, if you're a Kings fan, this is all good news. Interesting that, if you look at the leading goal scorer or goaltenders in the league, Jake Ottinger, number 1 in Dallas, Stuart Skinner, number 2. Wow, I never would have guessed that. Anderson, we mentioned. I think he might be hurt. Now, this was kind of my pick. My dark horse pick, Logan Thompson. You knew that Logan Thompson was going to get a big workload in Vegas. They have a very veteran team, lots of offensive firepower, great coach in Bruce Cassidy. And the defense, like Peter Angelo, Theodore, Martinez, like, you go down the line. I was like, I think this guy's a legit candidate for Rookie of the Year. And I think so far, like, he's not disappointing. Like, 4-2-0, 1.69 goals against average, and a 943. Do you think Logan Thompson might be a candidate for Rookie of the Year? I kind of think so. How are my Isles 7th in league scoring right now? Isn't that a little weird? Interesting about Isles, they gave up on, Kiefer Bellows. I don't know what the surprise about Kiefer Bellows is. You can be disappointed in him, but he went in this draft year. Like, you knew Kiefer Bellows is very one-dimensional. He always looked a little pudgy. So I never really thought he had great fitness, and he could shoot the puck, and that was kind of it. So they kind of gave up on him. He's 24 now, which is shocking. So we can agree Murray wasn't the answer. I mean, I agree with that. I think he's capable, but this was always very, very high risk. Who do you think will win the games tonight? All right, so tonight's games, we know that if you look, the Buffalo and Detroit is going to be tight. I got to think Detroit, if they get a good game, they're still really, like, hurting, though. I don't know. Detroit's hurting, still missing some bodies, but if you look at the games tonight, happy Halloween, by the way. Senators and Lightning. I'm going to pick the Lightning tonight. Flyers and Rangers. I don't feel like the Rangers have hit their stride yet. The Flyers got bad news with the surgery for Sean Couturier. He's out for like 3 or 4 months, I think they said. Something like that. So that's not good news for them. But Hayes is playing well. Overall, Flyers are playing really well. I think this is a toss-up, to be honest with you. I'm assuming that Shesterkin will be in net against Carter Hart. I mean, logically, you would pick the Rangers, but I just don't think the Rangers are playing their best game right now. Golden Knights are going to beat the Capitals, in my opinion. Golden Knights are looking really, really good. We had some question marks around this team, I think mainly in goal, but Logan Thompson, as I mentioned, absolutely at 1.6 goals against average. this guy's in the mix for Rookie of the Year, and I think he's just going to get more and more workload, and maybe we just didn't understand how ready he was to take this on. Canadians and Wild, tough one. I'm going to go with the Wild. They seem to be getting their act together. Bruins and Penguins, you got to go Bruins. Pens are interesting. I don't think they're hitting on all cylinders. The Blackhawks, I think, have lost 2 in a row now after going on a 4-game winning streak. Islanders seem to be kind of hitting their pace. And, you mentioned that the Islanders tops in goals scoring. Like, that's really interesting in the league, and we should take a look at that. If I look at – there's a lot of games tonight, guys. So if I look at the Islanders and Blackhawks, I'm going to go with the Islanders on this one. Kings and Stars, I'm going with the Stars. I think the Stars are just like, they're a real contender. Preds and Oilers, I'm going to go Oilers. Preds are really struggling. I don't see that turning around. Is this in Edmonton or is it here? Should I go to the game tonight? If it's in Nashville, which is where I am right now. Nope, it's in Rogers Place. Dang it. If it was, I would go because you can get some pretty inexpensive tickets here, I think. I'm going to go with the Oilers. The Oilers are on a 4-game winning streak. Connor McDavid, as we mentioned, 18 points on the season, leading the NHL with 9 goals. So this is all good news if you are – oh, man, I'm looking at the wrong dates, guys. I'm so sorry. Tonight there's only 3 games. Tomorrow night, I went through all the games for tomorrow. Oh, my God. All right, Red Wings and Sabres. I'm going to go with the Red Wings tonight. Capitals and Hurricanes, I'm going with the Hurricanes. They're first in their division. Kings and Blues. Man, Blues are really struggling. I can't believe Blues gave up Ville Husso. That's bizarre to me. I'm going to go with the Kings tonight. So there's only 3 games. I apologize. I just previewed all the games for Tuesday. Yeah, that's crazy. 4th in goals for 4. 10 likes. Thank you, everybody, for that. I love Buffalo. Real deal prime. Buffalo's looking good. I'm hoping that Detroit pulls one out tonight. It's really hard for me to go against Detroit. I'm looking forward to seeing – yeah, Kelly, I screwed up. Sorry. I was looking at the wrong date. I'm a day ahead of everybody. Jeez. Real deal prime. Thanks for joining. Buffalo's really interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing Rasmus Dahlin. I'm looking forward to seeing Owen Power. J.G. Paterka, I'm really intrigued by. Alex Tuch's had a great start to the year. There's a lot of good stories. Yeah, Sean Couturier, 3 to 4 months. That's what I had thought after the back surgery. So that's not good for Philadelphia. But they seem to be playing well without him. Last I checked, Sorokin was 4th in the league in goals, 5th in the league in goals per 60. Yeah, all these stats. You're more up to date on the analytics than I am. Let's take a look. If you look at the goalie stats, Sorokin looks really good overall. So there he is, 221 goals against average. He's 27. I don't know why I thought he was a little younger, but I guess he's been around a little bit. So 3-3-0, but I think really this is good news. If he can continue to play at that level, I think the games where they struggle is when Varlamov goes in. This seems to be thanks, God. Hey, well, at least you got a preview for Tuesday, but yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves too much. Sorokin, looking really good for the Islanders, and I think they started out a little bit slow, but they're pulling it out. They were 2-4. I think they're 5-4 now, so they're getting their act together. This is interesting. Haven't really thought too much about Lane Lambert, but this is good news as a rookie coach. In the end, he's a rookie coach, and I think that was a big question mark. I wonder how many Sorokins there are. Oh my God, there's so many. But there's only one that's in the NHL. Matthew Barzal has not scored a goal, but he has 10 assists. So this is a guy that signed a $9.2 million contract. I really believe in Matthew Barzal. I also believe that he doesn't necessarily have the right line mates. There's not really a high-skilled player to play on his line, but they're getting lots of offense from other places. Andrews Lee continues to be a machine. This guy's 32. He's a monster in front of the net at 6'3", 235 with nice hands. Brock Nelson, the ideal second-line center, 6'4", 210, another Minnesota boy. And so these two guys are not getting any younger, but, man, they still are producing. This is good news for the Islanders, like 4 goals in 8 games for Oliver Wahlstrom. This is a guy that really took to heart, I think, training, and his fitness is at an NHL level now, which is really good news for them because He's a big guy at 6'2", 204. And if he's fit, which he is, he looks really good. And he's got great goal scoring instincts. Beauvillier having a bounce back so far, so this is really good because he had an off year last year. And Coach and I talked about this. Noah Dobson feels like the modern day Shea Weber. Like he's got a big shot. He's a better skater than we give him credit for. He's 6'4". Maybe he's not as punishing, but he's still tough to play against one-on-one. Like this is great news for them. And then they're still having good production from Ryan Pulock. JG Pajot, even though he got 5 assists from him, they're going to need some goals, but 3 goals from Parise. They're definitely spreading the offense around. This is surprising. Scotty Mayfield, 3 goals in 9 games. Matty Martin, 4 points in 9 games. Like, if you're getting production from these guys, and then way down here is Kyle Palmieri, and he had a big night the other night. Robin Salo, 2 goals and 4 assists. Like, so we got to watch the Islanders. Like, is Lane Lambert activating their defense a lot more than historically, like under, like Trotz? Was that like a thing? Like, is he trying to get them involved in the offense? Because they're certainly scoring more. I mean, overall, if you look at all the goals from the defense, that's good news for them. And definitely this is a night and day situation between Sorokin and the veteran Varlamov. So that's going to be interesting. If they don't necessarily, I mean, he's 2-1, but man, this is a big difference. So I think Sorokin obviously going to still get the bulk of the work. And they still, they're not really getting offensive production from that fourth line. I think Trotz relied on them really heavily, and they're really good. And how has Romanov worked out? He's a +5, 2 assists on the season in 9 games, so not a lot of offense, but being a +5, that's a positive for Romanov, who came over from Montreal. All right, so the 3 games tonight, we kind of talked through that. Who are you picking? Jose picked Buffalo. I'm picking Detroit just because I have to. I think it's kind of crazy if I don't pick Detroit. I don't know why I would pick Buffalo. I guess it depends, too, who's in net. Like, I don't know if Nedeljkovic is going to start tonight. If he is, then, I think the odds go back in Buffalo's favor. I don't find him consistent. You just don't know what you're getting from him night in, night out. And if, Detroit's still missing. Is that what they're saying now, is that Trotz is going to go to Toronto? I mean, that's who they need. They need a veteran coach that's, going to do what he did in Washington, right? Implement some discipline, get guys focused and committed, and provide the stoic leadership that they need. I mean, this guy has won a Stanley Cup. He took a team that could never get over the hump, and that's kind of the situation again. And when he was saying original 6 team, you're like, is he signaling to Toronto that he would coach in Toronto? And maybe that's why he sat out on Winnipeg and is being patient. Like, maybe he's saying, like, listen, I don't need to prove myself. Put me in the – yeah. Enertab said yes. I think that's probably what he was signaling, because if you look about a month ago, he was saying that he would like to coach an original 6 team. You're like, what's he talking about? But this is what he's talking about. I mean, are the players checked out on Sheldon Keefe and they're like, we know Trotz wants to come here? Is this all signaling through the media? Because we know that stuff happens in Toronto. Like, the signaling through the media is brutal. Like, just look at Mike Babcock. I mean, come on, this guy's legitimately a top NHL coach, and your team's going to be prepared and competitive. They were better under Babcock, but then the children in the room, Dubas wanted his guy in Keefe. He used the normal weapon of Steve Simmons, and they're all checked out. They're not playing for him at all. So this is ironic because this was their guy. But, in the end, they need, like, Barry Trotz. Like, are you telling me Barry Trotz, he's a different personality than Mike Babcock? Mike Babcock's a little bit, maybe comes across as arrogant, but he's very well prepared. He's a veteran leader coach. And what, he can't get a sniff in the NHL? Give me a break. That guy's like he was the highest paid coach in the NHL because of the Leafs. They didn't do that by accident. This guy's got a phenomenal resume. So, but then you poison him in the media. So who's next? You just have to look at the media in Toronto. So the fact that Barry Trotz was signaling he would like to go to an original 6 team through the media says to me that the knives are out. Dubas is definitely qualified. I don't think this is correct, Renault. He has not done a poor job. The problem in Toronto is I think they paid Marner too much too soon. They obviously paid Tavares to come as a veteran. I think that was the right move. Morgan Riley's underpaid. You could argue William Nylander is underpaid. Like Dubas is not a little kid anymore. Like he had success in the OHL. He mentored under Lou Lamoriello. He looks young, but if you look, this team is definitely on paper very good. But you can't play this fire wagon style of hockey. If your coach is like this guy that's trying to, he's saying, oh, maybe we'll play Mitch Marner on defense. That to me in the offseason signal, this guy's done. I mean, I get injuries. Blackhawks sat Matthew in critical situations. Yeah, Matthews was 19, 20, and he was trying to teach him, you got to play a certain way, and he was not wrong. And Matthews was complaining that his line mate was Zach Hyman. Like Zach Hyman was nothing, and he came to Toronto, and Babcock saw that what he did was really important, and he put him on that line, and they cried like a bunch of babies and put out like a media poison pill against Babcock about Mitch Marner. He centered Mitch Marner out. Well, good. Maybe Mitch Marner needed to be singled out. Out of the 6 team, 5 of them have new coaches. Toronto's the only one that doesn't. Exactly. So this seems to be a signal from Trotz that that's where he wants to go. Jacques Martin is he 94? Absolutely not. Why would they hire him? Trotz is the right guy. Trotz is absolutely the right guy. Jacques Martin. Jacques Martin will put you to sleep. He's a nice man, but he's like too understated. I think he would be chewed up by the Toronto media too. Kerfoot missing a penalty shot completely unacceptable. Hey man, it is what it is. He's a third line guy. He can score a little bit. I don't know what 94 is. Is this I'm not sure what that reference is. Well, anyways, we didn't mean to take over all the discussion with Toronto, but Toronto is definitely an interesting situation. And I could absolutely think that Barry Trotz is the guy to come in. They need an old, strong figure. Yeah, for sure. But that's Barry Trotz. Barry Trotz is not young. He's the most tenured coach in the NHL, I think, right now. One of the winningest coaches. He's won a Stanley Cup, and he's taken teams that were less than perfect. And look at what he did with the Islanders in the semifinals 2 years in a row with that lineup. Without John Tavares, which was the big thing against them. They're like, oh, they lost John Tavares, they're going to be lost. But that's not what happened under him. And he'll implement, a defensive system. He'll still let guys score. Yeah, the Buffalo game, MSU, thank you for joining. The Buffalo against Detroit game will be very good. Like this is 3rd and 4th, right? This is the 5-3-0 Buffalo Sabres against the 4-2-2 Detroit Red Wings. They're both young. There's lots of good storylines there. Buffalo's, twin defensemen there and Power. And although Dolan, Power's got a lot less offense than I thought, but he's been playing really well defensively. Rasmus Dahlon's been absolutely the story of the season for Buffalo. And you got to like what's going on offensively. Like Olofsson's clicking, Tuck's clicking, Middlestad's looking pretty decent. I think you're still getting good minutes from Cousins. This is the off year for Jeff Skinner, but still, like overall, yeah, it is going to be a fun game, Hunter. I'm looking for it. Oh, yeah, he's 94 years old. Yeah, sorry. Vegas is very surprising. So I think on paper, Vegas is super deep. We know they've had salary cap issues, but they've kind of managed through that. The question mark was, hey, Robin Lehner's out, but maybe that's the best thing. And I had said when we talked about Calder Trophy predictions that, Thompson was absolutely going to be in the mix because he's the only guy that's going to get a lot of time. And, man, he's responded. And Bruce Cassidy has something to prove. Bruce Cassidy is an excellent coach, so he's done a great job. As long as Vegas is healthy, which they have been so far, and they look prepared and dialed in, and they're getting great minutes from a lot of players, and they're getting good goaltending. The TSN panel saying Skinner should be taken over number 1 from Campbell. Yeah, Campbell's not looked good. Yeah, and Tage Thompson, you're right. Like 3 goals, 3 assists in 8 games. That's good news for Buffalo. There's a lot of good stories in Buffalo right now. There's a lot of offensive weapons. I really like the coach. JJ Peterka's looking good. They have a lot more to come. Like this is a good situation in Buffalo overall right now. All right, we're kind of 10 minutes before the hour. I'm hoping that what we did against Minnesota can carry over because Raymond, exactly. I don't think that Detroit looked a little sloppy. They're giving up more shots than I would have liked, and I think that Husso did pretty well, and they cleared out a lot of junk. Minnesota is not hitting on all cylinders. Crazy goal by Kaprizov early. It did not look good, but you can see what's going on in Minnesota. They're not clicking still. I don't think they're getting to scoring areas consistently. Boldy looks good, but when he starts shooting from the outside, you're in trouble in Minnesota. They've got to do something there. And they might be one defenseman away from, I don't know, Spurgeon's good. Dumba's there. Dumba's a little quiet. Brodeen, Suter looked pretty good. One of them disagreed to the amount they paid Campbell. Who cares? Campbell, this is the problem. Campbell was like sub 900 in the playoffs. He's injury prone. He was briefly a number one goalie. I don't see this as like a savior. If Stuart Skinner plays the way he's capable, that's being a 2-goal against guy or 2.5 goals against a game guy, they're in great shape. And Campbell, I just didn't think was necessarily he got paid a lot, but in the end, whoever's better, you got to go with. And Skinner so far has been better. And I think Skinner's young, right? He played against us in the WHL, and he was really, really good. He beat us in the playoffs and took his team to the final. I think that Matt Barzal was on that team. At least we can get Michael Rasmussen back after this game, right? 2-game suspension for Rasmussen. That was that for the stick to the head to Krejci? It was kind of dumb what he did. I don't think Buffalo is for real. The Red Wings, I don't think so. I disagree with this, Kelly. Buffalo is very good. Buffalo has got a lot of depth on that team, and I think that that's a really good team. If I look at that lineup, they have good scoring balance. They played very well last year, and they have guys that are coming of age. I think that Buffalo for sure is for real. Let's see what I did with that screen. I don't know what I did with it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I don't know. If you look at that team in Buffalo, they are very good. I think the trick is the goaltending. Eric Comrie is not necessarily the answer. No offense to James Jensen. That's his guy, and that's our goalie coach in Everett. By the way, Everett last night, if you guys want to see Connor Bedard, try to go back and look on the CHL website and look for Regina Pats versus Everett Silvertips last night. Silvertips won 3-2. Connor Bedard assisted on a goal, got the second goal. He's so good. He was phenomenal. Credit to Everett. Great game for them last night. Sundqvist is not he's very important to Detroit, isn't he, MSU? He's played very well for them. And Fabry is not back till January. I just don't know. It looked like he'd have a hard time getting in. David Perron is interesting because he started out really hot, but now you see this is why he gets 27 goals a year. He looked like he was on pace for 50, and then he kind of disappears for games. He gets stuck on the boards and in the corner and isn't creating offense again. So he's kind of a little inconsistent that way. It's not that he disappears totally, but offensively he's just not consistently a high producer. I don't know what's going on with Verona. I don't think anybody does. This appears to be a pretty serious problem, and I anticipate him not being back anytime soon. Would you pull the trigger on Austin Matthews? No. Why would you trade Austin Matthews? I would not trade Austin Matthews. The issue is the team defense and a little bit of the culture. Nylander's cheap, but Nylander's not reliable defensively. So it's the same old story as 2-3 years ago. These things have not changed. Matthews is an elite player, and Matthews right now is on pace for 25 goals. He had 60 last year. So something's going on. Buffalo is absolutely not a joke. This is a really good young team, and they're not totally young. I mean, they have a lot of offensive weapons, which I really like. So Rasmus Dahlin leading the team in scoring, that is really good news we're going to look back and say, of course, he's leading the team in scoring because he's had so much offensive production and just building up to the point. Now he's 22, 23, and this is he was elite, no doubt. I really like Olofsson. Tuck's played well, and Tage Thompson waking up is really good news for them. Casey Middlestad, if he's the second line center and he's on pace for 15 goals and 45 assists on the season, that's what you would want from him. Dylan Cousins playing well. That's a good player. Jeff Skinner is like a yo-yo every year. It's like, oh, he's up or down like year to year. It's amazing how this always happens. I like Hinostroza. He's an inexpensive guy. Peterka is a big upside here. Like, I think as he gets more acclimated, this is a really important player for them. Did they make Kyle Okposo the captain? I think they might have. Asplin's okay, you know. Owen Power, you're going to at some point get more offense from him. And I think Peyton Krebs, I don't know what's going on with him. So you got still potential here with Krebs and Quinn to come up in the future and be offensively impactful. This, though, is what's going to kill them. If they continue to have to play with Eric Comrie over Craig Anderson, who I don't know what the timeline or what the situation with Anderson is, but this is night and day here, right? So they're kind of limping along with Comrie. That's just not going to solve the problem. So that's why I'm kind of picking Detroit tonight, even though Detroit's missing bodies. He'll probably find a way to fix the problems. In Detroit, yeah. I mean, Detroit is a work in progress, right? I like the signings, and I think Kubalik is the absolute best signing in the offseason. I thought Perron was going to be. Like, Perron's a very good player, but you can't just rely on him as being your top offensive player. But he can be in the mix. What punishments do you give players who accidentally step on your shoes in the locker room? Oh, what? Nothing? Although with all the expiring contract at the end of the season, it might be more important with Detroit, or with you just saying teams in general because of all the cap space Detroit has. Yeah, I love Peyton Krebs. You're going to love Peyton Krebs. He's just going to get better and better. And when he clicks, you're going to have a really, really good player there. He's just a character player. He's really smart. But, you know, it's interesting where they're getting offense from now, and they've got more in the tank. So if anyone gets cold, they got other guys can definitely step up. So that's good news. And I think that's the story in Detroit also. Although Philip Zadina, man, I'm just really sad about this situation. Watching him the other night, that was not – he's just not – doesn't have it, man. He just does not go to scoring areas. He does what's comfortable. UPL. What do you think of UPL? Would you make him play a couple games soon? Oh, the goaltender. Yeah, I mean, I thought he would have been up there by now. I mean, I think he's probably better than Comrie, but I don't know what the situation is there. Like, for me, Pekka Luoken, I think is his last name. I like him. I think he's a big goalie, and he looked like he was going to be, you know, at least a 30, 40 game a year guy, but he hasn't really, you know, taken the reins yet. So I don't know what's going on there. We'll see what happens. It would be nice to get him in and see if wouldn't hurt for Buffalo. For Detroit, great news about Kubalik. Larkin continues to play at a level that I didn't realize he could, because I didn't really see him as a number one center in the NHL. But if he can even be a point a game, then you're excited. Perron had 4 goals in like 5 games, and now he hasn't scored in the last 3. So I think this is the story of Perron. Adam Ernie getting some offense. And I thought he played very well last game, physical. Olli Mata kind of coming back down to earth offensively. Rasmussen, maybe you're not seeing the points on the board, but having him back, he won't be back this game, but having him back and reuniting that Redwoods line would be really good. This is the big story here. We need Lucas Raymond to continue to produce offensively. Soderblom, maybe, you know, already struggling a little bit, but Veleno can step up, and I thought he looked really good last couple games. Andrew Kopp continues to be very unimpressive. Love the show. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. With Detroit, since guys like Burt, Ernie, and Larkin, and Nedeljkovic, and I see what you're saying. Well, I mean, they got to sign Larkin. That's got to happen. And he looks like right now he's going to get big money. So I think that's really important. Bertuzzi, I'm not sure if he'll be in Detroit. I mean, he had a really unfortunate injury with that when he blocked that shot. What are you doing? You got a dog digging a hole in the living room. I mean, I think they got to make sure that they've got Kubalik. That's really important. All right, guys, we're 1 minute before the hour. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to wrap it up. Looking forward to the game tonight. We'll check back in with you on Wednesday morning, and we will do another live. So please join me then. Otherwise, Coach has got, as he does every night, Hockey Nation live, not just Hockey Nation, but live tonight. So check that out. Thank you so much for joining. If you haven't already, please hit the likes and share. Is Doc a winger now? Not sure about that. I mean, maybe. That's interesting. I think Doc should be a center personally, but if he's playing wing with Suzuki and Caulfield, then okay, maybe that's fine. And if that moved Dvorak up into the second line and he responded offensively, so I think that's a positive. Great show. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hunter, hopefully you will join us again. All right, guys, have a wonderful Monday. I look forward to seeing the game tonight with Buffalo and Detroit, and we'll connect with you again on Wednesday. Otherwise, please join Hockey Nation live tonight with Coach Frenchie, and I will try to join and jump on and see if I can contribute something. Otherwise, I will join in the chat with you. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you soon.